From in the beginning to the musical apocalypse, this is The Bible Says What. I'm your host, Mike Wiseman. From Paul to Saul. According to Acts 26:12-18, Saul was going to Damascus with the authority and commission of the chief priests. Along the way, he saw a light from heaven brighter than the sun blazing around him and his companions. They all fell to the ground and heard a voice saying to them in Aramaic, "Saul, Saul, why do you persecute me?" Saul asked who was speaking, and the voice rang back, "I am Jesus, whom you are persecuting." Now, somewhere along the line, Saul's name gets changed to Paul. I have had a similar experience, minus the name change, but in reverse. There once was a time when I would refer to myself as a Jesus freak, someone who was not afraid to spread the word of my invisible savior. I used to think this dude actually lived in my heart. I believed some rather strange things way back when. But Jesus never showed up for me. He never once came down and said hello to me like he supposedly did for so many and like he did for Saul. Slowly, my beliefs in the intangible dwindled. With doubt creeping in, I picked up my Bible and actually read through it and documented the things that I found that didn't quite add up. It was like a flash of clarity. The side effects of reading my Bible were apparent. I had seen behind the curtain. The deity I was promoting couldn't be as awesome as I was taught if the Bible was true. I went through a Paul to Saul conversion. Now, a lot of the things I do are considered by many Jesus fanatics to be blasphemous. Some will cry persecution if I challenge their beliefs even in the slightest. Most of these Christians have no clue what's in their holy book. This is why I find it so important for Christians to pick up their Bibles and read them. Let's start the show.
Is there anything in the Bible that you yourself have an issue with? Okay, so it took you reading the Bible to realize that those things were bad for you?
Yeah, it actually did. I didn't
figure this out on your own?
No, Ted Bundy could be redeemed. God doesn't kill children.
What do you think the Passover was? Yahweh sets up a whole system in the Old Testament where you slaughter animals just so he's able to forgive you.
Today's special guest is spiritual coach Kathy Walden. Welcome to the show, Kathy.
Thanks. I'm excited to be here.
Thanks for coming on. Thanks for taking the time. We'll see.
That's right. That's right.
So tell us a little bit about what you do.
Well, I'm a spiritual life coach. I'm also an empath, a teacher, a lifelong learner. And what I do is I actually work with clients most of my clients are actually people who believe they're here for bigger reasons that are, to help other people. And so what I do is I help them to learn how to love themselves, trust their intuition. I call it their GPS system, which is their guidance provided system, which is set up between them and you can call it God, source, a higher power, whatever it is that you're comfortable with calling it. I call it God because I believe I've worked through a lot of those things. But that's what I do is I really help people to really, again, love themselves and trust themselves.
Well, loving yourself and trusting yourself is usually a pretty good thing for the most part. Yeah. There's always those exceptions. So let's just jump right in. Can you describe your deity? Your God.
Yes. I've gone through many iterations of that. I remembered, okay, let's just jump into where I was in high school. So I grew up going to a Methodist church and didn't love it. Mother would wake us up every Sunday morning. And of course, everybody's yelling at each other to get ready. And then we go to church and act like we're all perfect, right?
Yeah.
And then when I was in high school, I became a born again Christian. And then of course I felt like I had to save everybody, right? I went through that whole, I got to save everybody. And
Great Commission and all.
Yep. Yeah. And then when I was in my early 20s, I had quit college. I was living back at home and I was in a Christian Bible study. And my sister was Mormon, and I had all of these, and she had come back from her mission, and I was with all these Christian friends, and they were telling me that my Mormon sister was going to hell because she was Mormon.
Yeah.
And I remembered looking at them and going, okay, wait a minute. What you're telling me is my Mormon Christian, who I am seeing as the most loving person I've ever seen, the most non-judgmental person I've ever seen, but because she believes in the Mormon church and what they believe, she's going to hell.
Yeah.
And I think it was the last time I went to that Bible study.
Wow.
I was like, that doesn't match up with what I believe that God is. So I think at that time, I really viewed God as that, the man who's sitting on because that's what we learned, right?
Yeah.
The man in the white beard, like your beard, right? But it's white.
Oh, yeah, whiter. Yeah.
Right, yeah, very white and long white hair on a throne. And so that was my view, was that God was separate from me. And so then I've gone through, again, a lot of different things. So then I got into a group where we studied things that were kind of more woo-woo. So I went kind of the whole woo-woo route as well. I have some mediumship abilities and some psychic abilities that I don't really use those much. Like, I'm not a medium or psychic, but I do have some abilities.
Interesting.
But of course, as a Christian, that wasn't okay. That was wrong.
Well, yeah, the Bible says to stone witches, mediums, and warlocks and all that. Yeah.
And I'm sure I was stoned many times in many lives.
And not in the good way, but the bad way with the rocks.
Yes. So I went from being this born again Christian to then kind of this more woo woo. And then now I'm kind of in the middle where I believe there's a middle ground of, I do believe in a higher power. I believe in something that is bigger than me. Do I know what it looks like? No. I think it's interesting. The more I know, the more I realize I don't know. And I love that. I love that it's more of a mystery to me, but my experiences have been that there's something bigger than me and I'm not alone. And that brings me some peace. And so I'm at a place now where I feel like whatever it is that's bringing you peace, if it's truly bringing you peace, then can it be all that bad?
Well, I mean, we can always throw in some circumstances that are not so great. Like, let's just say killing Jews was peaceful to Hitler. That's probably not a good thing. Or it brought him peace to know that the master race was. Yeah, go ahead.
We're assuming that Hitler was at peace about that. We don't know.
Well, I mean, he didn't seem to be unpeaceful about it. He seemed to be pretty happy about the master race taking over and all that. I mean, that was his whole thing. So I don't know. It's debatable. We don't know the mind of Hitler for sure.
Yes.
But
right. I mean, we also don't know, was that obviously it was from his ego, right? So is that, again, are you peaceful when you're in your ego, or are you not peaceful? Or you think you're peaceful? I don't know. There's so many things.
Lots of different things. I mean, we can go to Pol Pot. Was he peaceful? Did he love himself? Was he happy with himself? Doing all this horrible, disgusting things. So yeah, I mean, we don't know the minds. We can't really go there, but we can't really say they weren't peaceful either, because we don't know.
We don't know. It's a mystery.
It is.
Which is a Christian's worst nightmare.
Well, Christians love mystery. Oh, I've talked to plenty of them. They love it. Oh, the mystery of God. I love the mystery of God. It keeps me close to that. Really, that's all kinds of crazy stuff like that.
Yeah, but there's still a lot of black and white in there instead of a lot of gray.
Well, that's for sure. So something bigger than you. Yeah. How did you come up with this? Where did that come from?
Well, I think some of it's come from, I've had spiritual coaches and spiritual teachers. I think just learning and growing. I went through, I was back in that born again Christian. Here's my puppy. She wants to say hello. This is Hazel.
Hello, Hazel.
Went through that born again Christian phase. And then I had a moment where I read this book by a Jan Van Zandt called You Can Heal Your, what was the name of it? I can't remember the name of it. All of a sudden it's just left me. Anyway, no, it wasn't that. Okay. Anyway, I'll think about it. And so we read this book, and it really uncovered my soul and what my soul was feeling.
Huh.
And it was kind of a daily journal thing. Of course, I mean, keep in mind at that time I was in a Bible study, I was in a book study. We were doing Wayne Dyer, Marianne Williamson.
Hmm.
So I had like this very, very different kind of thing that I was learning about. And I was just learning more about myself. And from that book, I remembered a time when I was like 4 years old of being with God before I came here. Like I remembered the sitting with God. I remembered like just being peaceful.
Interesting.
Okay. So now
Okay.
fast forward.
Okay.
So this is what's crazy. Fast forward like 20 years, right?
Uh-huh.
So then we fast forward to that. And now I've had an experience of realizing at 4 years old, I was molested as a child. I didn't remember. A memory came back to me about 4 years ago. Didn't remember for whatever, 55 years, came back to me. And then I was like, oh, no wonder. Maybe I actually, during that time, I was with God to protect myself. Of course,
Wow.
I'm in a little child's mind too, right?
Yeah.
So maybe as a child, I was thinking, okay, if I'm with God, then I'm protected. Because that's what we're learning. That's what we teach our children when they're in church.
Hmm.
So I thought about that a lot because I always thought, oh, I remembered being with God. But I think maybe that was also a protection mechanism.
I could see that for sure. You know, I mean, whatever
Yeah.
your hero is, or you're somebody that makes you feel safe.
Right.
Spider-Man, Yahweh, Batman, you know, your dad, you know, all those things that help make you feel safe. You probably go there for sure. Yeah, I can see that happening. Sorry that happened. That sucks. That's horrible.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so I haven't heard much of a description of Yahweh or
Okay.
sorry,
Oh,
not
that's
Yahweh,
it.
your God. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think I can describe it. So okay, so what I was going to tell you was, so recently what I've been realizing is I really believe that it's within me. So the more I've learned to love myself and trust myself, I had very low self-esteem. And so the more I learned to really love myself, get rid of old beliefs and understand more about who I am. There was a time when I got out of a long-term, was married, divorced, got out of an 8-year relationship. And I found myself at 51 years old, 52 years old, single, thinking I never thought I'd be single at 52. What am I doing? And I remember being happy I was over the relationship, but then like 2 months later going, what the heck, right?
What did I just do?
Yeah. Well, no, I was glad I was done with that, but I'm like, now I'm alone. And then my kids were grown and gone. I was literally alone in my home. I couldn't point at anybody else to fix them or to say it's their fault. I had to look inside myself. And I remembered many, many nights where I literally would just be on my knees on the floor going, I can't do this. I don't know how to do this. I'm scared. I'm alone. My parents were both passed. I hadn't like nobody I felt like I could turn to. I was afraid to go to friends. And then I just remembered asking God, saying, I need something every day for you to remind me that I am not alone. And so I said, I want to see an elephant every single day. And so literally for 3 months straight, I saw an elephant in some form every single day. And some days I would forget I was supposed to see an elephant, and an elephant insurance company commercial would come on TV. Or I would, happen to turn on, like I would see the word elephant. I would see an elephant. It would come in really, really strange ways. That's why I felt like for me. So I can't give you a description of what God is other than it's my experience. So my experience has been that I'm not alone, that there's something bigger than me. But again, I don't know if that's all true, right? That could change next week.
And you said it was a feeling. You felt that you were not alone.
Yes. But see, now in my Christian days, you weren't supposed to feel. You were just supposed to know or believe. But feeling, to what I learned, feeling was bad.
Emotion part of it. Yeah.
But I'm an empath, and that is my truth teller, is how I feel about things.
Feelings. So you can trust your feelings.
I can trust my feelings, but I've had to practice it. So I've gone to where I would go the opposite way to see if it was telling me the truth, and something would happen and I'd be like, yeah, I kind of knew that was good. I would kind of practice it.
So your God that you feel is there and with you,
Or source,
or
energy, what, higher power, whatever you want to call
I mean,
it.
what do you? It's very confusing. So how does it interact with you? How do you think it interacts with you? Does it want to interact with you?
Oh yeah. Okay, so this is really good because I've been listening to a bunch of your podcasts, so I kind of know, like, I kind of understand some of where you're coming from, and I think one of the areas that we get caught up is that we assume that God is human and thinks like we do, or thinks like a human.
Hmm.
And I don't think that's true. Like, I think that's limiting. We are limiting what I believe is something that's beyond what I can even imagine. So I think about how I love my children.
Uh-huh.
And I think of how much I love my children. I would never put things in the way of my children to screw them up. I would never go, here, let's throw this in your path and see how you do. I just wouldn't do that. So I don't believe in a God that would do that.
Especially one that's all knowing and still does it.
Right. But again, even when you say the word all knowing, we're still thinking about that in our human minds of what all knowing means. Right.
Well, how else am I going to think about it?
Right. Well, no, I agree with you.
So, I mean, like, you're telling me I'm only thinking about it in my human mind, but how else would I be able to think about it?
But, have you heard the things of where we only use like 1% of our brains or something crazy like that? 10% of our brain?
Yeah, it turned out to be easily debunked, but yeah, I heard that. Like half our brain or some shenanigans.
Right. But that means that there's still a lot of that mass that we don't even use. Right?
Well, it was debunked. We definitely use all of our brain, just in different times. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. There's no empty storage in there, I don't think. I mean, I'm no brain surgeon or anything, but from what I've seen and heard, definitely do your own research. But we use all of our brain just at different times.
At my age, for sure, there's not as much space there.
No, I figured out, because I'm getting older. Tomorrow's my birthday. But what I have figured out is that you get more in here. Yeah, something has to come out. Yeah. There's not enough space in there. So I've lost song lyrics. I've lost Bible verses. I mean, I've lost all kinds of things. So
definitely.
No
now,
fun.
How old will you be?
41.
41. Oh, so you're just a young pup.
That's what I keep hearing.
Now I'm curious as to, why do you use the word Yahweh?
Yeah, because that's what he gives himself the name. I don't really know what to call him, because there's lots of different kinds of gods and they all have different names. Well, what's this one's name? Well, that one's name, and he calls himself Yahweh. So that's why I use the word Yahweh.
Yeah. And how do you feel about God?
Which one? Yahweh specifically? I mean,
I don't know, whatever you call God. Or do you?
I don't believe there are any invisible people or things sending me feelings or anything like that. No. So yeah, I'm zero on that scale.
And how do you feel about Yahweh?
Yahweh, the character of Yahweh, from what I read in the Bible, he's a monster, and I don't understand why people worship him. And I'm sure you agree.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, I think even as a child, I never understood. I'm like, wait a minute. To me, that was confusing. How could you be a loving God and yet you're killing people?
Slaughtering children.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm
and
like,
boasting about it.
Yeah, that never jived with me, and it never sat right with.
It does not jive.
Yeah.
No, there's so many problems, and that's half the reason why I stopped believing in the Christianity, the Bible, and all that shenanigans, was because there was just so many issues, so many contradictions. And that loving thing right off the bat, such a big one. Yeah,
I know it's really challenging for me. I mean, I did hear one of your people, and I say this all the time. I grew up in America and I grew up in the Christian faith, but I think had I been born in India, I would have been a Hindu. Had I been born somewhere else, I could have been a Muslim. So I think that was the experience I chose. Now, so you could get into that too, right? The woo-woo is I chose to come here this time and have this experience as a Christian and see what that is. How do you feel about that?
Well, I reject Christianity and spiritual stuff. But I did want to jump more into what you believe and why. I wanted to get into that God of yours, that deity. Like, you can't really describe him. You feel that he's there, and You don't think he wants to have a relationship with you?
No. I'm in a relationship with,
Oh, you are in a relationship with him.
with something that I feel is a higher power.
Mhm.
I know God really triggers a lot of people, so let's use higher power because that.
Okay, higher power. So this higher power, did this
Yeah.
higher power create everything?
I don't know.
What do you know about this higher
Yeah.
power? What can you say for sure about it?
Here's the truth. We could say a lot of things, but until we're not here anymore and until we're somewhere else, then we might know the truth. But a lot of people who are like, I know this, I know this, I know this. I'm like, again, how do you know? I mean,
Yeah.
people know by experience, people know by what they've read, people know by, well, because I said that I'm this way, so I have to like I'm gonna die by the sword, kind of thing.
I'm gonna die
Um,
on this sword. That's what I'm gonna do.
right. I can only go by what my experience has been.
Yeah. And your
And
experience is that you have a relationship with this higher power.
yeah.
And how does this relationship work? Because I don't know if like we would call a relationship the same thing at this point.
Yeah. Again, because we're trying to use, I know we're human, but we're still trying to use words around something. So, what does that mean? But see, I also believe that there's angels there to help me. There's spirit. I don't think I'm alone, that
Uh-huh.
I'm not through this earth by myself. I do feel like there are other things out there to help me. But I'm also responsible for everything, right? Like I'm responsible for myself, and I'm not putting it on God to fix it or change it. I am responsible for my own experience. I think that's where sometimes we get it wrong. I think when we're looking outside of us for God to fix it,
Yeah.
then we end up not taking responsibility.
Oh, definitely take responsibility for your actions. Don't blame God. Don't blame the other invisible bad guy for sure.
Right.
But can you describe this relationship a little more? Because when I think of relationship, when you think of
Yeah.
relationship, we think of a relationship we can have with somebody, with something, with your dog. You have a relationship with your dog. Your dog comes to you. Maybe not. I don't know. My dog doesn't. She just kind of loafs around. But they can interact with you. You can play fetch if they
Yeah.
do that. We go for treats, go for walks, all kinds of stuff. That's a relationship. I feel I have a relationship with my dog.
Right.
But you say you have a relationship with your God. I
Yeah.
think that would be a little bit of a different description there.
I think when I think about that, I think about it in the sense of when I have aha moments. I feel like that is what that relationship is. I feel like the more I love myself, then it helps me to love others. I feel like that's part of that relationship. I think it's just a challenge because it's not, again, it's not the same as what the relationship I have with, probably is more like the relationship we have with our dogs, because dogs give you unconditional love.
Yeah, but they're there. They're physically there. That's a little bit different. So you're having a relationship with a higher power you can't see, hear, feel, taste, none of that. So do you see my confusion?
Yeah. And then I'm gonna say the word. I mean,
Don't say it.
that is what faith is.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Kathy, no.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so we have to go there now.
It's believing the unseen things. It's believing and I've heard you talk a lot about, when, children have cancer and all those things. And I feel like, or, why didn't God heal that person or whatever? And I feel like sometimes the healing doesn't always happen in our earthly life, but it happens afterwards. But I've read books of people who've had near-death experiences, and I believe those.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of science behind it that just kind of debunks it as far as the light at the end of the tunnel. We can see things before we go into emergency rooms or hospital rooms. We see them on the way and then we talk about it later. Like, I saw this when I was floating. No, you just passed by it and forgot you saw it, because you were in trauma. Or brain injuries. Those are my favorite ones. I had a brain injury and then I saw God. Oh, okay, let's start with that first sentence. You had a brain injury. I mean, anything after that is very skeptical, very skeptical.
Yeah, I guess the difference is, like, would you say in your life you feel pretty peaceful and happy?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But I don't have a higher
Yeah.
power. I have
But
a
that's
dog,
okay.
kids, a wife, family, friends.
Do you have to have a higher power?
No, I don't. I don't have to have a high power to be happy or,
Right.
satisfied or peaceful or any of that.
Yeah. So what is it about, like, when you talk to people, what are you trying to debunk with them? Like, what are you trying to debunk with me?
Not debunked, try and figure it out because it makes no sense to me. You're telling me you have a relationship with an
Ah,
invisible almighty power. I don't know how
right.
that works because I
Yeah.
don't have one of those. And I don't understand
So,
how the relationship works because that's not how relationships work.
but you did grow up in the church,
I did. I did
and
grow
then
up in the church.
but then you had a bad experience with it,
I had a Saul to the Paul to Saul moment. Hey, there you go.
which is what? Yeah, tell me about
I
that.
picked
Have
up
you
the
talked about
Bible.
it before?
I picked up the Bible. I was Paul. I loved Jesus and did all the church stuff and puppet ministry for the kids. And then I read the Bible and I became Saul. I
Mm,
love this Paul to
yeah.
Saul moment. I'm going to put that down.
I am so glad I could give that to you. I know that wasn't actually from
Thank you,
me.
Kathy.
You know what
No,
I mean?
this conversation brought it. I love it. Thank you.
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
but it was kind of like that. It was a reverse. It was definitely a
yeah.
reverse. I
Interesting.
I think religion is ridiculous at this point. I don't think we should be. I think we should put away these childish things. I haven't had anybody convince me of anything. And then, but the main point is, who can convince me? Who would be able to convince me? God.
Right.
And he hasn't.
Unless,
Hmm.
unless,
Unless I'm not listening.
no,
Okay.
unless
Good.
your purpose is to actually do what you're doing and really question things
Uh-huh.
to help other people to really start thinking about what is it they believe. Like,
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
that is your role, and it has nothing to do with, I mean, the other stuff. It really has to do with you're bringing a light to something that other people aren't willing to
Huh.
look at.
So why would God want me to do that? I'm taking his book, I'm deconstructing it and making him look bad. Why would he want
Uh,
that?
I don't think you're making God look bad, because
He,
I
he's still
I
not
think
here.
God can, but I think God can handle any question we have, and I think that's where if we're mad or we're sad or we're upset, or like, any question can be handled. So, like, what, again, we're thinking of it. I know this is weird. We're thinking of it as a human being, when I don't think of God as a human being. I loved the movie The Matrix because I was like, oh,
Which one though?
well, the first one. I
Okay,
said,
good.
when I
Yeah.
saw the first one, I'm like, oh, now this is interesting, right? Like,
That was really cool and a lot of fun for sure.
yeah.
Spoiler alert, number 4 sucks. Don't watch it. Don't
Oh,
waste
I
your
watched
time.
number
Oh,
one. Yeah.
I don't even know why they made that. It was so bad. But that's my opinion.
Right. But I do think it's interesting. And I don't know, the whole thing is interesting, but I also don't believe in this God that is this angry, vengeful God. I'm not an
Right, you
old,
got this peaceful wanting to see, does he want to have a relationship with people? Like, or sorry, this higher power?
does he want to have, I don't know the answer to that. I'm not
Why
sure.
would he create people then? Why would
Yeah,
it
okay.
create people?
You know what? I honestly don't know that answer. I wish I knew the answer, but I think that's such a mystery. That is the mystery, right?
Yeah.
Like, why are we actually here? What
Hmm.
are we learning? I mean, if you go down this other path of woo woo, a lot of it is we're here to experience these things, and it's like Earth School. So we're here to have these experiences. Have you heard that before?
I love
Yes.
it though. It's great. Great one. Earth School. I'm gonna have to use that one.
Yeah. So, so we're here to learn different things and grow and spiritually grow, learn to love each other more or not love each other, like, just have these experiences.
Huh.
And then once we're dead, then we're also having experiences after that. Again, do I know all this to be true? I do not know all this to be true. All I can go by is what my experiences are.
Well, sometimes Earth School sucks for people. A lot of people go
I
through some horrible experiences. Some people
I
suffer their
agree.
whole lives. And I think Earth School would suck at that point, and the deity that created them just so they can go through that is a monster. So does your higher power create people on purpose that would suffer through life?
Yeah, see, I don't know the answer to that.
Kathy,
because
what do
I'm
you
not-
know, Kathy?
Yeah. What do I know? I'm telling you, all I know is what my experience has been. So I can't try to change what you know. I can't try to tell you, well, this is it, so you better believe this.
Yeah.
I can only go by what my experience is. And my experience is when I've been at my lowest point, I've had help from something that was not from this world.
How do you
And
know that though? You know that. You
just know
you
it.
know that, right?
I know it.
Okay, so how do you know that? How do you know that something else was helping you and it wasn't just you? How can you tell the difference between your invisible higher power and your own brain?
How can I tell the difference between my? It's just a knowingness.
That doesn't, I don't get it. I don't get it. I'm sorry, Kathy.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
But it's like, well, how do you know that it isn't?
What do you mean? How do I know it isn't?
How do you know that Yahweh's a vengeful God?
Well, he tells me about all of it in his book over here.
From your experience of what you've read, that tells you that,
Well,
right?
from the words he supposedly told people to write down about his history and his characteristics. So yes, that's how I know.
Yeah. So even that is interesting, because then I'm thinking, okay, like the New Testament is written 70 years afterwards, and we've all played the telephone game, right?
Yeah.
We know how that goes.
It does not end well.
It does not, right? It doesn't sound anything like what that was, right?
Yeah.
So it is very confusing. But if we want to talk about if Jesus really came to this earth, and if Jesus said, love one another, like if that's the worst thing we learn from that book is to love one another, is that horrible?
Well, I highly doubt that's the worst thing we're going to learn from the Bible.
No. But I'm just saying,
Yeah.
okay, what if that is the best thing? What if that's the only thing?
There you go. If that is the only thing you learn from the Bible, put it down. Read that, put it down, put it away, give it to some, I don't, bury it. I don't know. But yeah, no, there's so many horrible things in the Bible. And if you're telling me that the Bible's there just to tell us to love each other's neighbors, there's other religions that did it beforehand. There's other people that said it beforehand in different ways. We don't even need the Bible at that point.
Yeah. So I always thought about rewriting the Bible.
Now that's a feat.
What'd you say?
That's a huge feat right there. That's something to take on.
And this is what I was going to do. I was going to make it like so thick, and then you'd open it up, and it's going to say love one another.
There you go. Every page, all across the whole thing. Buddha says love one another. Treat your neighbor as yourself.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if we were to actually just do that, instead of getting stuck in these religious arguments about everything.
Yeah, it's never going to happen though, Kathy. There's way too many religious zealots out there. They take this book literally. And this is why, I'm just going to show you. This is why on the back of my Bible is a parental advisory. No child should be allowed to sit down and read this. Yep. It's disgusting, the things that are in here. Horrible, the things that are in there. So do you believe in Jesus? Is Jesus one of your higher powers?
I think that I'm in a space where I'm still working on that. I was very much in the Jesus camp, and although my Christian boyfriend's going to have a field day with this, but I was very much in the Christian camp. I remember I was a fundamentalist, and I gave my heart to God, and I was like, I said those words to get saved. And and every time there was an altar call, I went up. I was like, I got to make sure I'm saved. Right? And so my experience was through Jesus. But again, like what the Christians talked about and what the Bible talked about didn't match what I was thinking Jesus and God was.
What you were thinking Jesus and God was.
Right. Like, again, what I believed that Jesus and God was this loving presence, right? So,
why did you believe that though?
I think just as a child, I think, again, there was just a knowingness of gentleness, of love when we would, Jesus loved me, this I knew.
Yeah.
Right.
For the Bible tells me so.
Yeah. What else does the Bible tell me? Right? Yeah. So I think there was just that feeling of, I think I have a little Pollyanna in me, where I want to believe in the best of people, and I want to believe in love, and I want to believe that we're all good deep down. And so I think that part of me must have felt that about Jesus or God, as I think about it, as you and my neighbor and whatever, right? I'm still learning. I'm still judgmental. I still struggle with some of that.
Yeah.
I have probably more judgment about what Christians are now. So my experience was through feeling that Jesus was about love, and that, okay, if Jesus came to earth and was about love, then again, it didn't match what I was then reading about in the Bible. It just wasn't matching.
Jesus is very vengeful as well. He comes back and he throws all the atheists into hell. He's very happy to do that, he says. So
yeah, and see, and I don't agree with that. That's just what I don't agree with, because that's not the God that
that's not what you want to believe your God is.
That is not what I believe.
I believe you stated you want it to believe, but that's okay. I did write that down.
Well, then I'm going to rephrase that. Yeah. And I say it like that because I would have a lot of Christians going, but, and trying to convince me otherwise. And so there are sometimes I use certain words because I don't want to argue anymore. I don't want to argue about this. I don't think it brings us peace. I don't think it's helping our world. I think it's actually dividing us instead of bringing us together. And I would like us to be able to come together. Yes. Do I live in a Pollyanna world? Absolutely. Is it going to happen? Probably not.
Probably
but
not.
But that's what I'm hoping for. And that's why I like what you're doing. I think what you're doing is actually really important because it's getting people to think. And I do believe that's one of the things that we can do, right? Is we can think. But there is at some point we are going to have to let go of the thinkingness and the just becomingness. Becoming love.
Becoming better people.
The what?
Becoming better human beings. I tell my kids all the time, be a better human being. You can do better than that.
Yeah.
It was I think Confucius, Buddha, somebody said, be the change you want to see in the world. I love that. That's such a great thing to say.
That was actually, that was not.
Who was it?
It was the guy from India. That was Gandhi. That was Gandhi.
Nice job. Man, it was right there. It was right there at the tip of the.
Yeah. I mean, so think about that. I mean, here was Gandhi who came in and didn't have to be forceful, right? He didn't have to shoot or kill anybody. He was about love. He was about peace. Now, a lot of people don't like that either, right? They're like, but wait a minute, we got to have, power and force.
Revenge. Yeah.
But I remembered when the Iraq war started, or Desert Storm started, and I had young children. So my kids were probably in 7th grade. And I remembered I was in my spiritual group with these women reading Wayne Dyer books and all this. And I remembered thinking, I know that there's a mom over there in Iraq who does not want to send her son to war.
Yeah.
And if I don't want to do that and she doesn't want to do it, then why are we doing it?
Why are we doing it? Exactly. You know why? Because there's rich, powerful people that don't care about you or your kids. And that's horrible. Yeah.
Right.
They should fight their own damn wars.
Right. So do I know why we're here? For sure? No. Do I know what God real intention is for us? No. So I'm not much help for you on that.
I still don't understand. But so does he talk to you? Does he how does he send you thoughts and stuff? How does that work for you with this?
Yeah. So I do. I get I will see something, I'll hear something. Like when I work with my clients, I definitely get what feels like I need to say this because this is coming, and usually it hits with that person. Now, could that be my higher power and their higher power talking? Absolutely.
Wait, there's two different higher powers?
Maybe.
Oh my goodness. Now I'm totally confused.
No. I mean, no, I didn't know. Not higher power, higher self.
Okay.
Our higher self And your higher self, like our higher selves would be talking to each other and going, okay, why are y'all arguing about things that you actually both agree with? Instead of going, okay, what do we agree on and how do we make this world a better place?
What is a higher self?
Mm.
You keep throwing things out there. You keep making me take left turns here, Kathy. What's a higher self?
It's the highest version of who we are. But again, you're thinking of it in human terms. And I'm
It's the
even
only way I know how, Kathy.
well, that's where faith is.
That's just make believe at that point. You're just it's like I'm just going to pretend this is here. I'm pretending it's real. I'm going to pretend that this thing is actually happening, and to me it's real because, well, it's like LARPing, Kathy. I see it like LARPing, like the live action role play. Those people in the park with the swords and the shields and the
See, I don't know what that is. How do I
well,
know
let me
that's
explain
real?
it to you.
No, I don't know if that's real. That may not even be real. You could be making that up.
There's a whole movie about it. Actually, there's a couple of them. They're really funny. You should check them out. But LARPing is a thing that people do in a pastime. They pretend they're knights or whatever, and they have the fake shields and swords and whatnot. So that's kind of what I see faith as. We're just going to pretend that God is there on our side. God is there talking to us. God is here in the room. God is sending us messages, all those different things. And that's where I see it. It's we don't have any evidence for it. I'm just going to pretend this is what's happening. And that's how I see faith.
Yeah. So I can see where for you it feels like pretend. And for somebody like me who it definitely doesn't feel like pretend. Like it feels safe. It feels loving. It feels like when everything on my outside world is going bad, I know inside like everything's okay. I'm protected.
Just a feeling.
For me, it's a feeling. Now, not everybody's like that, right? I mean,
most of the Christians I talk to, honestly, Kathy, they all tell me the same thing. It's a feeling. You just have to have that feeling. And if you don't have that feeling, then you don't understand and you can't know. Well, why hasn't God sent me a feeling?
Well, really?
Yeah.
I mean, because you don't want one for one.
Well, for years I did, Kathy. I was in the church for years. You know what I felt?
Okay, so this is the mistake. So the church I think has it wrong.
Which church? I went to a lot of them.
Okay, so if we look up, what does it mean to be a cult? So now I'm going to really throw it out there.
Oh, now you're really going to piss people off. Okay, let's look at the definition of a cult real quick here.
Because I've looked it up a few times, and I'm just saying. I know people are going to get really mad at me now. You're going to be like, wait a minute, why is she talking about my church as a cult?
A system of religious veneration and devotion directed toward a particular figure or object. A relatively small group of people having religious beliefs or practices regarded by others as strange or sinister. Well, okay, I mean, anybody's beliefs could be strange. But
those aren't all of them. There should be a few more, right?
A misplaced or excessive admiration for a peculiar person or a particular person or thing. Yeah.
Okay.
What do you got?
Hold on.
You got more? I got so it was a class or so. I could do Wikipedia, but that's a lot. That's just too much.
Okay, so just think about a system of religious veneration and devotion directed toward a particular figure or object.
Yeah.
Some could say that Jesus is a particular figure or object, right?
100%. Or the Bible itself.
Right. So that's why I'm saying, like, everybody thinks it's this church or this church is a cult, right? Because there's one guy who says, you better follow me. Again, like you could put all of that into what we're asking people to believe in religion. So I would call myself more spiritual than religious.
Yeah.
Because I really do. Honestly, I feel like in religion, we have it wrong. I think we're teaching things and it truly is about love and loving each other. And this other stuff is just a bunch of stuff that's getting in our way.
So what did I do wrong? Was it the church I was in? Was it the way I was asking?
You didn't do anything wrong.
So why didn't he
maybe
contact
this
me?
is just your experience. Maybe this is what you're okay. We're going to go way again back to the woo woo. Some people talk about these things called sacred contracts. I'm not sure
Ooh.
I believe in those, but a sacred contract is okay. I'm going to come into this life and I'm going to learn these things, and my dad is going to be my dad because we talked about it beforehand. Again, this is way out there. Your Bible people are going to be like, "What the hell is this crazy woman?" Right? And I'm okay with that. But to me, it's like, I mean, maybe you came into this world for this very reason to do what you're doing, because this is the experience you need to have this time around.
Interest. Oh, so this time around,
Yes.
reincarnation.
Yes, which is interesting because what does the Bible say about reincarnation, or Christians say about reincarnation?
Well, they don't like it very much.
Yeah.
They're not big fans of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I read this book one time. Again, I'm going to have to see, this is why I like to write notes before so that I can remember. This book called Jesus Life According to His Brother Biff. But that's not the exact title. Have you read that book?
No, I love it.
Okay. So it's all about how the opening scene is where a lizard is in Jesus' mouth.
You read Lamb.
No, I don't. Is it called Lamb?
It's called Lamb by Christopher Moore, and I have the one that looks like a Bible. I can't believe you read Lamb. That's amazing. Christopher Moore is one of my favorite authors. It's the whole scene. He puts the lizard in his mouth, it kills it, and brings it back to life.
Yes.
Yes.
So he pulls it out of his mouth, puts it on the ground. His brother Biff kills it. He puts it back in his mouth, brings it back to life, right? So it's all about this story of him. And then, of course, Jesus goes off, right? We have nothing about him from the ages of 13 to 34. And they talk about how he went and learned about Hinduism, and he went to Buddhism, right? Like he went to all these places and learned all these things, and then he came back. And I'm like, now, wouldn't that be interesting?
That's
Wouldn't
a great
that
story.
be interesting if that is true, in the sense of, because then again, that would bring us together. I think religion, it's separating us. It's making us fight each other. I mean, you've got Catholics and Protestants in Ireland who are fighting over what?
Stupid things.
Right. I mean, like, why in the name of God would we be fighting? That's where I say that's the human side of us, not the God that I know and that I believe. And that's just not right. Because I would not send my children to war.
No, not willingly anyways. They would have to force me for sure. Or they'd make their own choice. I'd let them make their own choice, but I would highly discourage it. Show them all kinds of pictures and videos and oh my God. So heaven and hell, we've reached that point of this conversation, because if I'm destined to do this and not believe in God, is there a hell waiting for me because I don't believe?
I don't think so.
So what happens?
Again, I'm not there, so I don't know. But when I get there, I'll come back and tell you.
Okay. I would appreciate that.
Yeah. Look, I can say, again, all the things that I've learned or I have been told, but do I absolutely know for certain? I do not know for certain. My sweet 15-year-old puppy, I just had to put her down on Sunday. And it was devastating for me because she's been with me everywhere I went. Yeah. And one of the things is, as I'm like trying to stay calm enough to actually send her off, I'm like, okay, Kathy, you got to get calm, because you don't want to send her into the next life and have her be like, oh my God, my mom is like, and so I was trying to get calm. And what concerned me was, who's going to be there to meet her? Like, is she going off into something and then she's alone? And right, I don't want my baby to be alone. But I don't know. I don't know the truth. I don't know. What my hope is that, well, when I got home and I took a shower, I was reminding myself friends who passed away about a month ago. And I thought, you know what? It brings me comfort to know that that little dog, Callie, was waiting for Sasha. And she met her and said, come with me. I'm going to show you all the smells, all the places to go pee. Like, it's going to be awesome. We're going to have so much fun. And that brought me comfort.
Yeah.
So even though I can't tell you for sure what happens, I have to go by with what brings me comfort. And what
that's just make believe at that point, though, Kathy. We don't know that's happening. You're just coming up with the story and you're believing that's what's happening because it's comforting. At that point, you're just make believe is comforting to you.
And is that bad?
Well, I mean, it's better to know or to believe true things, I feel. In reality, it's better to base life out of reality than to live in a fantasy world. That's where I'm at. I've talked to people. I'd rather live in on Earth than Narnia.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So what do you think happens when we die?
I think we die.
And then
You decompose. I mean,
that's it.
yeah, your brain doesn't go anywhere. There's no spirits. We haven't no proof of a spirit, no proof of a soul, no proof of any of that stuff.
So God forbid anything happened to your children, please God, nothing, right? But if something were to happen to them, would you be like, okay, they're just nothing?
Yeah, it's devastating. They are dead, but their story lives on to the people who knew them and loved them. That's how they live on.
Yeah.
Not in an invisible world where everybody's happy and peas on bushes. My kids would probably love that too. Here's a little bush. Here, there's a bush over there. I have boys. I got two boys.
I have boys too. I'm like, you know what? It's just not fair. Now, see, that's not fair. I'm gonna have a conversation about that. Like, what is up with that? Like,
what
guys
kind of God?
Keep wherever they want, and we can't. Now that is the conversation to have.
I did have that conversation with them. I said, there's only a couple places you can pee: a tree, a bush, or in the toilet. That's it.
That's it.
That's all you get, man. No, leave that area alone.
I think that if you and I had had this conversation 10, 15 years ago, my answers would be completely different. I would have known for sure. I would have been so black and white in my, yes, there's this, and yes, there's that. But because of where I am in my own journey, I feel like there is so much mystery. I don't know for sure. I have to go by with what brings me peace here, because if I go by all the things that you say or other people say, it ties me up in knots and makes me anxious. So for me, I have to go by with what brings me peace. And some people will not agree with that, and that's okay. Yeah. I just have to go by what kind of life I'm trying to create for myself. And in that is a lot of peace and freedom and joy. Like when I was in that black and white thinking, there was not a lot of freedom in there.
Yeah. Imagination. When I use my imagination, I feel very free. And that's how that works. But I appreciate it. Thank you so much. I appreciate all your answers today. We're almost out of time here. Where can we find your stuff?
Well, you can find me on Facebook at Kathy Walden and on Instagram at Kathy Walden Spiritual Coach.
There it is.
And I'm a little bit on TikTok. Not that much. Social media is just too much for me. But garbage. You can find me on those others, and if you want to have more conversation, you can send me a message and we can talk.
Fantastic. Well, Kathy, this is it. Thank you so much for your time today. You've been awesome and fantastic and patient. So take care, stay safe out there, and we'll keep in touch. All right.
Thank you.
Talk to you later.
Okay. Bye.
And that's all the show there is for you today. Thanks for listening. If you like what you heard and want to help keep the recording light on, simply go to patreon.com/BSW the podcast and sign up to be a supporter of the show. Your episodic tithes of $1 or more will give you access to the patron feed, unaired conversations, early access to each episode, and much more. For the latest events, BSW swag, and a peek behind the scenes, head on over to the show's ever-evolving webpage at thebiblesayswhat.com. The Bible Says What the book is out. Head on over to thebiblesayswhat.com and get yourself and your grandma a signed copy. Thanks to the cosmic powers of the internet, it is now possible to buy me a beer or coffee online. Simply go to buymeacoffee.com/BSW the podcast and click the appropriate buttons. If you can't support the show monetarily, please like, share, and or leave a review. As always, you can find me at the Bible Says What Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, or Instagram pages. You can also reach me at bswthepodcast@gmail.com. And no matter which platform you use to listen to your podcasts, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you won't miss out on the next episode. Until then, would you kindly pick up your Bibles and read them? karaoke with Harvey. Step out of the way, please, sir. Don't touch the curtain. Do not touch the curtain. Very important. Do not touch the curtain. All right. And we're back. Mr. Grayson, would you like to say something to the world?
Yes.
All right. You have the microphone. Well, don't touch it, though.
Right. So, you know how we have our world being polluted? We need to stop that. And also the sharks, we need to help save the sharks. Because the sharks are like pretty much endangered at this point. And we can help them by not polluting the ocean or the environment by not catching them and killing them.
Oh, good idea.
Maybe, and if you get bycatch, which is catching sharks on accident, just let the shark go and not like eat it, because we're trying to save sharks, not kill them.
Don't eat sharks.
So don't eat sharks, let the sharks live, and help all endangered animals. Make sure that our endangered animals are not endangered animals. Make sure the word endangered becomes extinct.
Wow. Nice job. Been watching documentaries?
No.
You heard it here, folks. Let's save the sharks. Bye. Say bye.
Goodbye. Goodbye. Goodbye.